This is the Mercedes-AMG SL 4MATIC Plus. A 200 grand roadster. Is it worth the price? Watch this to find out.
This absolutely marvelous car has its roots in the automotive icon, the W113 SL Gullwing, which also came in the less spectacular Roadster form. Yes, that one time when Roadster was the boring one. Then we had the W113 Pagoda, the R107, which I have fond memories of, as it was featured in the 1980s Dempsey and Makepeace TV series, the R129, which was as 90s as the brick phone, the R230, which I don't even remember, and the R231, which, as far as I remember, was a heavy brick on its own. This is the R232, which is not a featherweight, but at least it doesn't feel heavy, especially in the 63 form, which has 585 angry horses under the bonnet.
Some very strange sounding horses in Germany. Anyway, jokes aside, if something came out of Affalterbach, it will always sound phenomenal. And as it happens, the AMG V8 engines are indeed made in Affalterbach, because other AMG engines aren't. And the car is actually assembled 600 kilometers up north in Bremen. Enough geographical trivia, let's talk about the car itself. The new SL is built on a new architecture for 2+2 vehicles, and we'll talk about the +2 aspect later. It's a self-supporting aluminium space frame, which is supposed to guarantee rigidity, proper proportions, and comfort. Mercedes stresses that no element of the new architecture design has been carried over from either the previous generation SL or from any other models, including the AMG GT Roadster. Driving the SL, I feel the rigidity. It may not be the kind of sensation I mentioned in my Porsche 911 review, where even the steering wheel was meant to remind you about how stiff the car is. But when negotiating bumps, I feel as if the Merc goes over them in like one shake, so to speak.
For the first time in its 70-year history, the SL comes with all-wheel drive in the most powerful versions. Also, first for the SL is rear-wheel steering. The SL is surprisingly maneuverable despite being more than 470 centimeters long, with meter-long overhangs. The BMW 3 Series is of similar length, although it has a longer wheelbase and therefore shorter overhangs. There's an active spoiler on the boot, which starts to open from about 80 km/h upwards and has 5 positions. Of course, if you're switching from a Porsche, you can also raise the spoiler manually and look like a dick in traffic.
You can opt for the SL with a mild hybrid 2-liter turbo and rear-wheel drive, but something tells me if you got more than 100 grand for a toy, you'll find twice as much for a toy that is the ultimate pub flex. No one is going to make those hairdresser car jokes when your ride is in one league, not only with BMW M8, but also with the Porsche 911 GTS or the Aston Martin DB11.
Mercedes promises the SL63 accelerates from 0 to 100 km/h in 3.6 seconds. I checked. In Comfort and Sport modes, I got 3.8 seconds. In Sport Plus and Race modes, with launch control, I got 3.4 seconds. And it was wet. By the way, for me, under 3.5 seconds from 0 to 100 km per hour is the threshold where things start getting physically unpleasant, especially if I have to repeat it several times. But let's say you don't have to prove your manhood at every traffic light, because most blokes don't have the horsepower to challenge you. How does the SL fare in everyday situations?
First of all, I love the sound. I know I've said it before, but the V8's rumble and the sporty exhaust setting, which is possible regardless of other parameters, make me smile, and that's before I start moving the steering wheel or pressing the accelerator. Except when in comfort mode, in which you sometimes have to let the turbos spool a bit, the SL is ready to accelerate immediately. But despite nearly 600 horsepower under the bonnet, the car doesn't feel scary. It's very fast, but I'm not afraid, as it sometimes is the case with cars which have more power than the driver has skill or brains. Even in autumn and winter weather, the car grips hard, and I wonder if it's straightening some corners, maybe? That's how grippy it is. If necessary, there's also a mode for slippery conditions, but I didn't have to use that.
The carbon ceramic brakes help slow down this beast. The SL63 weighs nearly 2 tons, almost 100 kilograms more than the M8 and almost 300 kilograms more than the GTS. The quick steering rack combined with rear-wheel steering makes the SL almost turn on a dime. Add to that the long bonnet and the fact that you sit almost on the rear axle, because there's really very little room in the back, and the driving experience is exceptional. It's a wonderful break from the grey reality of ordinary cars that are only used for commuting. With the SL, you take the scenic route. Because after all, roadsters are for admiring the scenery, feeling the wind in your hair, being closer to nature, even if the V8 under the bonnet of your car can sometimes scare the living shit out of those bunny rabbits.
Early January in Poland may not be the ideal time to test a Roadster, but I'm not the one responsible for delays caused by chip shortages. At least now I know that without the wind deflector, that's the net behind me, even with temperatures slightly above freezing, you can drive up to about speeds of 80 kilometers per hour and you're okay-ish. Above that, it starts to get uncomfortable and the heating can't keep up. But with the wind deflector, the problem disappears. Sure, on the highway it will be cold and noisy, but in the city and on the back roads you'll be fine. Operating the roof is possible at speeds up to 60 kilometers per hour and it takes about 15 seconds. It's possible while driving, as you can see. The roof is called a soft top, but soft it is not. It consists of 3 layers, including an acoustic mat, and the most important thing is that the whole structure is more than 20 kilograms lighter than the folding hardtop with tinted glass used on the previous SL. Now, fuel economy, I mentioned this only in the context of planning stops to empty a 50-year-old bladder while refueling, is about 16 liters per 100 kilometers. With careful driving, the manufacturer promises an average of 13, but give it some beans and you'll easily see 22. The last time I saw 22 liters per 100 kilometers was in a Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, but over there the manufacturer didn't pretend it would be less.
The Mercedes-AMG SL63 is, of course, equipped with the latest driver assistance system, so if you hit a boring stretch of highway, the car will help you take it easy, and that's before you turn on one of those energizing coach programs. These change the interior lighting color, play appropriate music, cool or warm the cabin, massage you. In short, they get you in the mood.
but not everything in the SL is what I would expect in a car for 200 large ones. I'll start with the technology. I realize that one buys a Mercedes for the latest tech. If you want ordinary, you get a Toyota, but Mercedes always pushes the envelope. The problem is that, like other premium brands, Mercedes has gone beyond what I understand. And I want to believe that as an automotive professional for almost 20 years and a person who was into cars since childhood, I should be able to grasp some basic settings without reading the manual. I always thought that manuals in cars were mainly for the stupid Americans, so that they couldn't sue a car maker for failing to warn them that, I don't know, the accelerator is for accelerating. Meanwhile, Mercedes, like BMW, has profiles nowadays, and I have a Mercedes Me profile, but the Mercedes press department has been so busy lately that they couldn't add my profile to the car, and as a result I have to use a guest profile, which theoretically should remember sort of simple memory 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't. Every time I get back into the car, the seat is in this almost reclined position, and when I start the engine, the seat returns, or doesn't, to some intermediate position. This time it didn't even. So every time I have to press 1 to get back to my setting. Is this my setting? Yeah, that's my setting.
But let's say that under normal circumstances I have my profile, Anna also has her profile, and it's okay. Beside the fact that the seat goes back to an almost reclined position and we both fall into the car, after restoring our settings, I find a good position behind the wheel without any problems. Anna doesn't want to raise the seat because Roadster, but as a result she notices that being 160 centimeters tall, the window line is rather high for her. Perhaps in the long run she would set the seat higher. I'm not a fan of the gradual transition to touch controls. The panel with the seat memory settings and heating and ventilation is semi-touch, and you're never sure if you hit the heating or other driver's seat setting. The buttons on the steering wheel are touch sensitive, so I regularly find myself changing data displayed on the dash, and adjusting volume takes 3 to 4 tries just to get it right, because the virtual slider is about 2 centimeters long, which is about the thickness of my thumb. I like that there are 2 physical dials with buttons to change driving modes, exhaust settings, etc. Now, while they looked cool in the more youth-oriented AMG A35, I wonder why I need a Tamagotchi in my SL. The central display has adjustable tilt angle, using a virtual slider of course. The variable tilt angle is supposed to keep the sun from reflecting in the screen, and it works. Opening and closing the roof is also done on the display. It is only possible after the car is turned on and the system loads, which can take 30 to 40 seconds, so pro tip, if you parked your car with the open roof and it starts to rain, don't try closing the roof from the inside, just press and hold the lock button on the remote control. You have to stand close to the car though. Speaking of the remote control, is this what the fob of a 200,000 euro car should look like? Should I put like a protective film over it or carry it in a holster so it doesn't get scratched? Other than that, the door pockets are predictably small. The cup holders traditionally obscure the induction charger. Storage under the armrest and the glove box are small. And the seats in the back are probably just so that a very short driver can carry equally short children. I'm talking about putting your children in there safely with child seats and seat belts, etc., because there are bound to be some influencers in the wild sticking out of the back, taking selfies and making TikTok videos. Those fun-loving passengers, and I guarantee there will be some, will probably want to jump out of the back seat instead of exiting through the front door. And then they will lean against a particularly flimsy flap that covers part of the folding roof mechanism.
They don't even have to jump in and out of the car. I leaned against it while trying to reach some luggage from the back, because luggage is what the rear seats in the SL are best suited for. Now, I won't even mention this wind deflector, which is probably the shoddiest job I've seen in my career.
The boot volume is 240 liters with the roof closed and the roof basket raised. Drop the roof basket to open the roof and the volume goes down to 213 liters. And before you try to force and open or close the basket manually, there is a button on the boot lid for that. If there's nothing obstructing the roof basket, it will drop by itself when you start opening the roof. You can also operate the roof with the boot lid open. Prices of the Mercedes-AMG SL start at €120,000 for the 2-liter 43 variant. The SL63 4MATIC Plus, like this one, starts at €187,000. With option, this test car costs €201,937.
I accept that I may be too old and too dumb to use modern cars, but I also feel at this price level, Mercedes could have raised the price a bit and improved the quality. Otherwise, the SL63 is up for anything that Saint-Tropez or St. Moritz have to throw at it. And how do you like the Mercedes-AMG SL63 4MATIC Plus? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.